Alright, let's go over all the parts that I've gotten so far. At least I think I've got them all right here. So first there was the head gasket kit. I've already started putting in new head gaskets. So a couple of O-rings. Came with a ton of O-rings because this whole bike is O-rings. So that's cool. There's the intake manifold I printed. You saw the last video. You saw me design that. Not exactly happy with how my printer turned it out. It's good and solid and everything, but like the tubes warped a little bit, and the supports on the inside, we got most of them out, but there's still too much left in there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I'll probably just have it professionally printed. Anyways, coil packs. Got a couple of coil packs. I got ones with the shortest down tube that I could find, and I think these are going to work pretty nicely. I'll show you a photo of them installed in the bike. They look like they'll be fine. Plenty of room for a bracket, and they don't stick out too far. Now this is the throttle body, and goes on the manifold like that. It's a nice 40mm throttle body. It's modest. It won't make the bike, you know, super throttle tippy or anything like putting a 60 on there would. I want the bike to be pretty sedate, at least, you know, off the throttle. So this will work nicely. It's not fly-by-wire because I'm using Mega Squirt, and fly-by-wire is just not a thing with Mega Squirt. So I just have to hook up the two throttle cables and get them adjusted. Haven't worked on that yet. Got an oil filter and the O-rings for the oil filter. I already shot some footage of me installing the thermostat and the water temperature sensor in the thermostat housing. So that's been covered. Let's go to the main event. This is the main event. This is a Mega Squirt 3 Pro. These things are normally like $1,500, and it's just, to be honest, I would not spend $1,500 on a Mega Squirt. If I were spending $1,500, I'd step up to a Haltech or something that does fly-by-wire. So, but anyways, this was $400 on eBay. I scored big time. So, I've got it wired up to an old gym stim here, just so I could power it up, make sure it read all the inputs properly, and I got outputs, so I knew it wasn't a dead on arrival. And I updated the firmware, so it's ready to go. It came with a used harness that's kind of shorter than normal, but it's a motorcycle. You don't need a long harness. Probably hardly need half that harness. So that's nice. So that's the fuel injection I'm going to run. Years ago I used to do these fuel injection installs in cars. Still have an Innovate LC1, which they don't even make anymore. It's ancient. But, you know, it was used. So the wiring on it is nice and short. Because I used it and that's how long I needed it. So that'll be just fine on a motorcycle as well. Bought a brand new oxygen sensor to go with it. Hopefully that oxygen sensor isn't just generic junk. You'll see I did not buy anything fancy. I bought a cheap one, but it's good. So that's a wideband oxygen sensor. That'll make tuning real simple. Lots of other things. Let's see. Fuel injector bungs. Clearly I'm going to need to buy a bigger drill before I can install these, but yeah, these are going to go in the intake runners and point down at the valves so that, you know, I have somewhere to put the injectors. These are real simple. Let's see what's in this box. Okay, this is a fuel filter from a Corvette. It's got a built-in fuel pressure regulator, so I'll just have to come up with a return line for the tank, and I will have fuel pressure regulator. And it's got you know, fancy fittings, you know. God, my mind is fried after a long day of work. Fuel injectors. I bought brand new fuel injectors. Hopefully they're not super generic and don't work. I also got pigtails for the injectors. They're you know, the more modern style injectors, and you know, use the more modern style of pigtails. So those work great. They're like 25 pound, 250 cc, really small. Perfectly fine for a naturally aspirated engine. Got a map sensor. It's a GM 3 bar. No point going with a 2 bar, or even a 1 bar. Just go with the 3 bar. They're the cheapest actually. So This is an intake air temperature sensor. It's going to go in my air filter. Just measure air temperature going into the engine. You know, I could technically put it into one of the spare ports on the manifold, and I could do that, but it's generally vacuum inside here, so it's hard to get an air temperature reading on vacuum. So it generally only reads the heat soak of the manifold. So this is the rest of my fuel line kit. What are these called? I want to call them KN fittings, but they're not KN fittings. Oh, whatever. You know, they're the fancy fittings. So that'll hook up to my fuel filter nicely. I bought custom fuel rail. See, it's all blank. I get to put the injectors where I want them, and you know, tap the end of it. Let's see, just a tad shy of 3/8, but yeah. So tap this thing, and or actually I'm going to cut it in half on each side of the engine. So that's my fuel rail, fuel lines. How about a fuel pump? Here's the fuel pump. It's an inline, just generic off eBay. It says Carbol. Anyways, it's vacuum sealed. That's kind of nice. It's big, but I'm sure I can find somewhere on the frame to tuck this. And I just pull fuel from the tank and pressurize it. I think this is the input, this is the output. Could be the other way around. Either way, I'm sure it says on here somewhere. But yeah, feed fuel into my fuel pressure regulator and fuel filter, and from there it'll go to the fuel rails and then back to the tank, or you know, something along those lines. Actually, it'll go from the fuel filter back to the tank. It goes into deadheaded fuel rails. It'll loop around to both sides, or maybe I'll just have to come up and go to both sides. We'll see when I get there. That's injectors. Oh, I've got an oxygen sensor bung, so I gotta weld this to the exhaust. I suspect I'm only going to be able to put this on one side, and I'm not going to buy 2 oxygen sensors for this. That's way overkill. I'll just have to trust that one bank is reading pretty much the same as the other bank. It might even be one cylinder that I'm tapping. Pigtails for this, a friend of mine looked them up for me, and so I will be able to order those nice and cheap. This is the pigtail for the coolant temperature sensor. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. So I've got everything I need to make this thing run. What I'm missing, I do have the timing belts. I got new timing belts. I need new radiator hoses, but that's super simple. Trigger wheel. I'm going to go with a 36-1. I found one that's 90 millimeters, so it's about as small as you can find the darn things. And it's going to go on the end of the crankshaft where the timing belt mounts, and hopefully that gives me, oh, I did forget one thing. Anyways, so then I got to come up with a crank trigger sensor to read the trigger wheel, and I've got to come up with a cam sensor to give phase so that I can do sequential injection and proper coil unplug rather than doing them as wasted spark. I mean, I can do batch injection and I can do wasted spark, but I'd rather have a better signal. Now this thing, this is pretty fancy. This is going to replace the crappy fuse box on this bike. It's from 1980 and screams 1980 all over it. Yeah, there we go. Shoot. Anyways, so 6 fuel injectors, 6 fuses, and I think the bike's got less than that now, or I can probably combine some circuits if I had to. But yeah, I'll have a fuel injection fuse, I'll have a fuel pump fuse, I'll have a fuel pump relay, radiator fan relay, plenty of spares. This is a nice kit. So it bolts on. I can bolt this on about where the current air thing is. I can't talk tonight. I can bolt this on about where the current fuse block is, and this is all watertight. It's got an O-ring in here, nice neon green O-ring. This thing was nice and cheap on eBay, so it's going to work really well. Comes with, you know, things to make everything waterproof down here, including these that go down here under the fuses, and a whole bunch of crimp-on terminals, and these are for the fuses. These are for the relays. So I gotta get the proper crimper for these. Oh, and then I guess this is a, yeah, this is a rubber O-ring for that. So yeah, this thing is gonna be good and watertight and just freaking awesome. It was designed for a boat, I guess, but yeah, fuse box, relay box. Really important on a motorcycle. I was sitting there wondering how I was going to keep the relays all dry and stuff. That's how. Also, that Megasquirt 3 Pro is waterproof, so like I said, it's the only way to get a waterproof, short of, you know, going with their really crappy Microsquirt. Yeah, Microsquirt is junk. Don't ever buy that. Anyways, so that's everything. We'll start assembling it this weekend. I tried to start this. So what I've been doing in the meantime is I changed the head gaskets. Well, I pulled the heads off, changed the valve stem seals, and put new head gaskets on when I put it all back together. I'm still wrapping that up. I got to put the cams back in. I'll go ahead and put the timing belt on when I do that. But that needed to be done. This thing, the valve stem seals were done. Yeah, so I'll get that all done, and then we'll pick up from there on fuel injection again. Thanks for watching.